right, welcome back, ladies. I would say gentlemen, but there aren't any. So we've got our last day of Academic Productive Talk. I realized I was not here last time, so I apologize for that. I had our, where was it? Oh, the National Science Teachers Association conference down in, where was I? Atlanta. So that was a lot of fun. I was down in Atlanta. I ate at Waffle House. I had barbecue. By the time, about third day, I was talking to my friend Rich. Yeah, talking to Rich, I go, I don't think I can eat anymore. He goes, me neither. Can we go find a salad? I go, uh-huh. So it's bad. So, but we had a lot of fun, a lot of connections, so it was good. So today it is, I believe we are a celebration day, day 5. So we're going to celebrate some of the things that we've learned or tried over the course of the year. And we're going to start with celebrating our understanding and implementation of some academic productive talk by sharing out some of the samples of how participants use their learning. And then we're going to also spend a little bit of time recording how academic productive talk can support content area literacy. So we're going to pull out 3 of the contents you probably don't deal with as often as you do with ELA. We're going to look at science, social studies, and math specifically, and look at the practices that are involved in those, and kind of just make sure that we see how that support fits into those practices. All right, so our outcomes are to share out implementation of academic productive talk, to celebrate implementation moments, and then to record ways in which that academic productive talk supports 3 of the core contents. These are going to sound a whole lot alike. So our agenda today is, and I tend to do things in the form of questions. That's probably my science background, but we're going to hopefully answer some of these questions, like what were some practice changes that you had around academic productive talk, and then ask and answer, hopefully, how the academic productive talk supports those 4 content areas. I feel like I keep repeating myself. I maybe need some more learning around the difference between those 3. But we're going to start with an inclusion activity because it's too quiet in here already. So find a Post-it note. If you don't have a caddy at your table, go steal a Post-it note or a piece of paper. Anytime, I do what I can. Grab a Post-it note or a scratch piece of paper or something. You're going to need it. And I'm going to need a marker really fast. Thank you. Perfect. Okay. I need some objects. We're going to just have fun with our inclusion activity. It's not going to be anything related to academic productive talk because it's sunny outside and I thought it'd be fun. Wine. Nice. Okay. One of my favorite food groups. All right. Another object. Chocolate. You guys just got back from lunch. All right, I need a third object. Cheese. Well, if we're going to make a platter. Okay, last object. A wine glass. Oh, okay. What was the other one over here? Crackers. Oh, okay. Ooh, what do you think? Crackers? I'm going to go crackers just because I feel like we should wind out the platter. I love that. You're going to like this even more in just a second. Okay, so you now, on your Post-it note or scratch piece of paper, as of this moment in your life and in your school year, I would like you to pick one of the 4 objects and explain why your life is like that. So my life is like a glass of wine because, or my current life is like some cheese because. And stick within your professional career world right now, just because, just so that you're comfortable with that. Some people aren't so cool about sharing their personal lives. Others don't care. I don't care. Ask me anything. Wine, chocolate, cheese, crackers. So my life is like this because of this. So go ahead and fill in that sentence minute. I just participate too. I gotta find that. Or my school year is like, or my classroom is like or something is like. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right. So, we're going to do a little bit of celebrating and sharing. And I know I have some coaches and some teachers in here. Who are my coaches? Okay. One, 2, 3. Okay. And then the rest, rest teachers? Yeah, okay. Okay, so I think it would actually be very beneficial during this activity for the coaches to sit in a group separately from the teachers. And since we have, it sounds like 3 or 4 coaches, that would probably be great for that one group. But because how you approach this is different based on what you do for a living. So what I'm going to actually have you do first is, if you have a computer, you can open a Google Doc. If you have, and this is on the Google Classroom if you need it. Or if you have paper or a notebook that you typically bring with you to write at LCN, you can open that. Or if you don't have anything and you want a Post-it note, you can do that. But what I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to start by just writing. And I'm going to give you some time to do that so that you can sort of reflect a little bit and get as much down on paper as possible before you share out, kind of like when we talk about talk moves or talk formats, individual thinking, time together, before we have time together. So we're going to give you about 5 to 10 minutes. I don't know how long this will take. My max is 10. But think about anything around academic productive talk that you had planned this year, whether you tried to push teachers forward in that as a coach, whether you did a PD as a coach, or whether you coached up that skill, how you used what you had here in your world. If you're a teacher, did you plan a conversation, or did you add some pair share time, or did you try a circle talk, or did you try a new format, or did you try using talk moves? What did you do? And I would like you to spend time writing as absolute much as you can. And I've got some questions up there that can maybe guide some of your thinking. What did you do? What change did you make? What did you think you should make? Why did you think you should make a change if you did make a change? Or maybe you didn't make a change. Maybe that change is just doing more rather than less, and that's fine too. What did you decide? How did you decide to do what you did with academic productive talk? How did you know whether or not it was successful or if it was working? What else played a role? And now what are you still wondering about? And so that, based on your role as either a teacher or coach, where just write as much as you can on that piece, okay? So spend about, first of all, questions on what you're doing. I will share with you, so you probably figured this out already, but you are going to get in groups, and you will be sharing out with a protocol, a noticing, wondering protocol on some of the things that you have written down with your group. So that's the goal at the end of that. So we can kind of share and learn from one another over today. Questions? All right, don't fall asleep because after lunch and your stomach is full. But go ahead and spend about 5-10 minutes writing, and then we'll move on from there. Now let's try it. There we go. So we're going to use a noticing, wondering protocol. Basic outline of this is fairly simple. And I'm going to ask for one of you to be designated facilitator just to kind of keep things going a little bit. But in your groups, you'll be in about groups of 3, maybe 4. And then whoever decides to go first is going to sort of present their information. And I'm going to kind of pop around and listen to some as well. But that presenter should about 2 to 4 minutes of sharing the context and what they tried and how they felt, well, sharing some of that reflection that you did for the last 10 minutes or so. And then we'll have the other 2 in your group then do about 1 or 2, depending. You, as a facilitator, you can decide you need 1 to 2 minutes or 2 to 4 minutes to share just some noticings. So no crosstalk at that point. So just, I noticed this, I noticed that, I noticed this. And that's really important to just get some patterns out there before that happens as well. And then about somewhere between 1 and 4 minutes of noticings and wonderings as well. And lastly, whoever the facilitator is can then paraphrase real quickly, share capturing some of those. So if the facilitator wants to take notes, she may do that. And then, I'm sorry. Where's the crosstalk? Where's the, it's not in there, is it? Share, noticings with wonderings. Oh, this must be where you have the conversation then. This was Mark's slide. I was like, where's the conversation? Here it is. Okay, so when you get to number 3, then you compare those noticings with some wonderings, and the presenter may go ahead and respond to those. I think that's the one where you're going to need more than 1 to 2 minutes. So we're going to ignore the 1 to 2. You probably need at least 4 to 5 for that. Okay, so let's start that again. So 2 to 4 minutes, share. The presenter will share. 1 to 2 minutes of just noticings. Then you'll hit into the world of noticings and wonderings, and go ahead, as a presenter, go ahead and answer the wonderings. And then at the end, the facilitator can paraphrase some of the conversation. And then we'll give you another minute to thank the participant, take some notes if you want to, and then we'll move on to the next presenter. So we're good. 2 to 4 minutes of presenting, noticings and wonderings, facilitator paraphrase, thank, and move on. Questions? Good. Okay. Up here are some, if you need some sentence starters for that conversation that they're up there. I noticed that this happened, and then I wondered about that. So if you need some of those stems, feel free to glance up and use them if my computer doesn't shut off. I'm going to give you a number. Where are my coaches again? Okay, 1, 2, 3. So there's 3 of you. You guys, it looks like you get the short end of the stick and get to move. That happens, right? And that leaves us with exactly 9, I believe. So I'm going to give you a number 1, 2, 3, and then ones will go together, 2s, 3s, and we'll be good. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3. So maybe maybe 1 there. Are you a 2? Or you're a 1. Okay, so maybe 1's back there, and then you don't have to move. So 1's back here, and we'll just go maybe 2's up here, and maybe 3's up there. And then coaches, you guys can find this. Oh, that's right. We already had 2 at one spot. Okay, I checked with each group to see how we were doing as far as having the opportunity to share. I would like to give you, you had the opportunity, some of you protocoled, some of you didn't, that's fine. I just mentioned to the groups that didn't, to making sure that everyone had a chance to share. I am going to ask for one of you in your group, and I do not care who, and I'm going to give you a couple minutes to decide who and what as a group that you're going to share out from the conversation that you have with the whole group. So I don't care what you share out. You could share out an idea you had. You could share out a pattern that you found as you had a conversation. Just one sort of general idea that came out of your conversation with the 3 of you that you can share out whole group. So I'm going to give you about a minute to decide who's going to share, and then you guys can decide what you're going to share too in about that minute. So about 60 seconds or so. Go ahead. It happens. I feel like I haven't done anything today. Usually I've got like a million things going on. This is just chill day. They're actually just celebrate it. It's like, can you let them learn from each other? I'm like, that's good. I guess that's what we do, right? Give it over to the participants. Like, here I am preaching academic talk. I'm feeling like I'm not doing my job. I don't even have to ask questions. You guys are self-sufficient.
How good of an instructor.
I don't know about that. Let's not go there, but it's funny. Okay. All right, your minute is up. What group wants to go first? Oh, you need me to. You guys want to go first? All right, if we can have your attention over here so we can hear what this group's takeaway was. So what do you guys have?
Well, between the
Yeah.
between the three of us, I think we just realized that when we're really intentional about using this, it always has positive effects on us and our kids.
Okay. Hey, awesome. Thank you. All right, you get to point to the next group because you decided to go first. I know. It's a little bit of a threat, I think. No. Okay, go this way. All right.
So we talk about a lot of things, but I'm just going to hone in a little bit on Think, Pair, Share because we each sort of had an aspect of it to share. So I came representing my two high school teachers because they had to leave early, but they just talked about how using Think, Pair, Share in two different ways kind of helps. Either doing it before a whole group conversation allows all kids an opportunity to think and talk before then you get into this awkward large group and then it's more productive. Another one just said she's just using it more frequently with sentence stems, but being very conscious of the amount of time she's giving, that even 1 minute is too much. Just being very quick about it and very brief. But so that was kind of a high school perspective. And then from the elementary perspective, we're using it, but it can get overused really quickly as well, being careful not to overuse any one protocol. Because, at the high school level, actually, this is some feedback, because kids can start to go, here we go again, kind of thing. So just being very careful about that. And then also just being very deliberate about giving more thinking time and before we talk, and then allowing kids opportunities to teach kids how to be good active listeners. So if somebody said something in the class, then immediately asking another child to paraphrase what that child said and how important that. A lot of hands go up at the lower L before they don't even have any hands, but they know they want to share. So trying to figure out how do we slow the thinking down and get the listening rate up.
Yeah. That happens in 6th grade too. I love it. Okay, good. All right, coaches.
Well, we talked about a lot as well, but 3 of the main things we decided to share out. One of the things being working in different content areas that when you think about productive talk, the thought of it's just good instruction. It doesn't live just in one content area that whether or not you're departmentalized or in a, you teach all subjects, that really all of these talk moves can live inside of all the different content areas. And then the coaching perspective, we talked a lot about the challenge that you have with any learning, that there's many teacher backgrounds, there's levels of experience, and then on top of all that, there's many different willingness to learn and collaborate with the adults. And that thought of when you're trying to set up those things that if you can't, you should be able to do it as a group of adults if you want to be able to do it with a group of kids. You need to be the model for that as the adult in addition to that. So when you think about your own willingness to learn and where that is, and then think about the individuals in your classroom that might be in different places too. And then one idea when you think about talk was a learning lab, if that was possible, and especially having a start of the year learning lab and maybe a couple of times throughout the year. We touched a little bit on it in here, but when you start, it doesn't look like these beautiful model videos that you see, but it's really important to see the beginning stages of what it looks like. And so for teachers who are hesitant to take those first steps, if you did a learning lab right in the first couple weeks of school, they'd probably appreciate to see the messiness of trying to get it going and then see how it can grow across the year. So.
Nice. All right, thank you. All right, ladies.
We talked a lot about the need to teach the norms to start with and providing them with sentence structures, sentence stems to be able to share their thinking. But a lot of our discussion was about what do you do with kids who, for many reasons, can't be good partners. How do you include them? How do you protect the rest of the class from them sometimes? And I think that is probably the frustrating part of it.
Yeah. There is reality in group dynamics, even pair dynamics, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, in classrooms. Okay. All right. Any other questions to those who shared out or other groups? Okay. All right. So at the very beginning of our world together, this was advertised as an opportunity to push your thinking around how academic productive talk can support core content areas. I think a lot of you live in literacy land, and so I actually did not put a content area of literacy on there because you even have speaking and listening standards, right? Like this is something that isn't a choice in literacy. However, we don't have speaking and listening standards in math or science or social studies. And so what I am going to ask you to do today, for just about 10 minutes or so, I'm going to number you off again. And I think it's important that we do this activity because, especially like coaches thinking about this and how it implements, and as literacy people, when you talk to those that have specialized in a content, they may not think that this is important. I have the hardest time with high school teachers with this stuff because we have sort of created this environment of and they are experts in their content area. Experts, right? They have majors in this stuff and sometimes master's degrees in this stuff. So to be able to take that knowledge and give it to children is sort of how we have behaved as educators in the past. I have it all. I need to bestow it upon you. And so we need to sort of think about how that needs to change, right? We do some modeling instruction in science. It takes 3 weeks research-based, to change every day, 8 to 4, 3 weeks straight, for some of my science teachers to get to the point where they're okay with that. And so I think as literacy teachers, and I use your example of you weren't so comfortable in math, but you were really comfortable in the ELA. Now you're a lot more comfortable in math. That this is a crossover thing. I think you guys know it, but I would like to record that down so that you have some language around that when you, if you share this outside of your own classroom, in some way, shape, or form. So what we're going to do. Okay, so I don't like that. We're going to just skip that. Okay, so what we're going to do, that's too much, right? We're just going to leave this slide up. So I have the goals of academic productive talk over there, the 4 goals from the Talk Moves sheet that we have been using for the last few weeks. So the goals of academic productive talk are to help students or individuals share their own thoughts, help students orient and listen to one another, helping students to deepen their own reasoning, and then helping students to engage with others' reasoning, which is probably the hardest of the 4, right? So I would like you to think about how those 4 goals might support math is over here, science is over there, social studies over there. And what I have done is I have pulled the math practices, the science and engineering practices, and the social studies. I don't think they're called practices. Don't ask me what they're called, but Mark did it, so it's legit because he's the social studies guy. So, but I would like you to think about how academic productive talk supports one of whatever poster you end up at, and just jot some of those brainstorm pieces down so that we can kind of record that thinking outside of the area of ELA. So I'm going to number you off 1 through 4, or 1 through 3, no, 1 through 4, because you got 12 of you. And we'll make science number 1, which will be over there because I'm the science consultant, and that should be number 1. We'll make math number 2 over here, and we'll make social studies number 3. So once you get your number, you can hop on over to your group. What questions do you have? Because my protocol was way too long. Good? Okay. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, no, 3. Hold on. Just this. I told you guys I do this every time. There's 3 groups. I got to give you numbers 3. Okay, we'll start again. 1, 2, 3. I'm not good at this, and I'm a math minor. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, science number 1, math number 2, social studies number 3. I always screw up numbering things, and that wasn't really hard. And I'm only going to give you about 10 minutes to do that because I'm going to launch you with one more thing. And how you guys doing? Anybody need a minute or two? One?
30 seconds to finish.
All right, 30 seconds to finish that. How you guys doing? You good? You guys in good shape?
We're good.
Okay. In that 30 seconds, yeah, stay there for one more minute. We'll just share out some thinking. Just share out one quick thing. I need to take a picture of this because this makes me giggle. It totally makes me giggle. It makes me so happy today. It's my awesome takeaway. Okay. 30 seconds good? Awesome. All right, there goes my thing again. I give up. I have it set for not ever shutting off, so tell me what I keep shutting off. Where I must have not clicked a button somewhere, right? Okay, you're lone wolf over there. All right, about 10 seconds, one quick takeaway from looking at a specific content. I'm not even going to do that. I'm going to ask this group. You had one comment at the very beginning, and what was it? What did you say? You said,
how does it lend itself? And I said, how does it not?
How does it not? Right? Are we seeing the how does it not? Yeah, the how does it not. But there are still teachers who will stand and deliver and refuse to let kids talk to one another. So my question back is, what's getting in the way? Like, what's the stumbling block? Is it that we don't know how to do the norms? Is it the classroom management? Is it that we've just never had it modeled? Is it because it can be really hard when you're in the middle of it and you get stuck, right? And you don't know what to do next. But we have Richard, who's one of the facilitators on one of the PDs that I do. He always says, no matter what, whatever you try, it isn't harmful to kids. It's always good to keep trying. But it is. You got to start thinking about what is that stumbling block to getting there, because there are some stumbling blocks, right, to have that amazingly. Nothing ever works perfectly like some of the videos I showed, but to get there, right, it can be tough. So, all right, okay, come on back. I have one quick last thing for you, and then I know you have some time with districts and any more of the guide that you'd like to do. Oh, yes. God, I'm telling you. Okay. So I come from Kentwood originally. We were a Capturing Kids' Hearts district, and so there was launches involved. And so I'm going to launch you, since it's our last day today, with a little story. And then I'm going to invite you to join my friends this week, actually. If you have nothing to do and you've got your wine, cracker, and cheese plate at home, and you've got a 9 o'clock, and you fire up a computer with a glass of wine, which, by the way, I might do on 9 o'clock on a Thursday night. There's a Twitter chat. If you've never used Twitter, let me know. It's not hard. You can Google how to do it and find some YouTube videos. I would highly recommend use something like TweetDeck. I was new to this about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a fast learn, just so you know. But anyway, there is a book study on this particular book, which is part of the Nell Duke series, Not This But That. So if you're familiar with her series on Not This But That, you will find this. It's a very short read. You do not have to participate if you don't have the book, but you could pick it up on Amazon, or you could lurk. We call that lurking, if you watch the chat but don't participate, or you can fully participate if you'd like. But it is on, and the book is up here. It's called No More Culturally Irrelevant. Shall we? No more culture. Let's not be culturally relevant, shall we? That'd be awesome. Yeah. No, none of you have ever done that. All right. And let's put less than 1 R in there, too. Okay. Did I spell everything? Nope. God, I am on a roll. It is 2 R's. Oh, look at that. Maybe I-R-R. That's probably what I did, isn't it? Let's pretend that's what I did. It still says it's not right, but it is. Okay. So No More Culturally Irrelevant Teaching. It's a really thin book. It's a quick read. And I'm going to read just an excerpt to launch you with. But anyway, Thursday night, for 3 Thursdays, every 2 weeks for 3 Thursdays, we're going to do a book study online with this. My friend Rich Backler from Wayne County is actually going to be hosting that along with one of his friends too. And the hashtag is no more CIT. So we're going to kind of talk about that online, have some professional learning with your beer, your wine, and your cheese plate, which is awesome. So, but if you've never done a Twitter chat or a book study online before, I highly recommend you do. It's a couple, I've done a few of them. I'm a kind of a Twitter fanatic. But if you haven't done it, I highly recommend you get involved in that world. It's really amazing. But anyway, so I want to kind of link this to productive talk too, because one of the issues is if we don't have students talking, then we don't have them engaged, which means that what they have to bring to the table isn't actually out there, and it can actually be detrimental to a lot of the different worlds that are there. So hopefully you'll pick that up in my launch, but hopefully I'll see you there on Thursday too. So this is right in chapter 1, page 2, and this is seen from a classroom, an analogy about white royalty in an urban kindergarten. With her kindergarten students gathered in the front of her, Ms. Smith began, "Friends, today we are starting a read aloud. We will be learning about kings and queens." In a Title I New York City public school, Ms. Smith's students were mostly African American and Latinx. Now, they have a different term for Latinx, which is all of the Latin groups together rather than just one specific. So that was her term that she explained at the beginning. Latinx, maybe? That's how you say it? I'm not really certain. The children sat crisscross applesauce on the rug as they were told about their new unit of study. For the next few weeks, they would listen to read-alouds about kings and queens. Almost immediately, the children reacted to the news with mixed reactions: squeals of enthusiasm, groans of protest, and silent indifference. The initial excitement of some children was quickly tarnished when one student's spontaneous comment disrupted Mrs. Smith's introduction. The student pointed to the illustration in the reading anthology where she'd noticed that the characters portrayed were all white. She immediately declared, "We're going to learn about princesses like Tiffany," identifying the only white girl in the classroom. "Uh-huh," another child loudly called out while crossing her arms and shaking her head. "I can be a princess too," she said, swaying her long box braids from side to side. "You wish, you're not like a princess, you know," Shanetta declared. This quick introduction to a new read-aloud that aligned with the mandated curriculum had made visible who is often present and who is invisible in read-alouds in curriculum at large. For the next few weeks, Ms. Smith's kindergartners were expected to learn about responsibilities of royal families, the royal objects they possessed, and where they lived long ago. Regaining the attention of her class, Ms. Smith began the lesson by showing the children where Europe is on a world map. They were told that they would be listening to a read-aloud about several kings and queens who lived in Europe many years ago. When Ms. Smith began the read-aloud, her students, who ranged from ages 4 to 6, were expected to sit quietly and listen. During the reading, the students were shown images of palaces, King Richard II, a crown, and Charlemagne, and they were exposed to new vocabulary words such as servant and royal. The children were not discouraged from asking questions during the reading, but they were not asked to share their thoughts or connect with the class or their turn-and-talk partners. After reading, the teacher asked multiple literal and inferential questions. By the end of the lesson, the students seemed disinterested in just about anything but the read-aloud. They had been sitting on the rug for over 20 minutes. They were candid with their feedback. One said, "That was boring." Another declared, "That was too long." It was no surprise that many were not able to answer the comprehension questions that followed the reading. In fact, shortly after the read-aloud began, few children were actively listening, despite Mrs. Smith's reminding them to have whole-body listening while she was reading. The students' lack of interest in the read-aloud stood in stark contrast to how they listened to the book, such as Duncan Tonathes' The Princess and the Warrior, A Tale of Two Volcanoes. With both informational texts and stories, the children were partial to picture books that contained ideas, characters, and themes that they could relate to, and the opening read aloud for their Kings and Queens units just hadn't resonated with them. Could something else have connected them more to the reading? Maybe, but there was no discussions about the author and illustrator, no predictions made, no previewing pictures, and no turn-in talks during the actual reading. Students who had breaks and built into their schedules, such as ones that are outlined into their IEPs, were quick to remind Ms. Smith that it was time for a break, and children who didn't usually ask for breaks did too. So there were certainly no requests from the text to be read again for it to be added to the classroom library. So one of the things I hope you get out of that with that launch is that one thing Academic Productive Talk does that we really didn't get to was try to connect with students and make their thinking relevant to whatever it is you're doing. Because speaking from a science person, not all kids care about photosynthesis. But if I can make them try to figure out how that tiny little acorn grows into a giant tree, maybe they're curious about what that happens and why it happens that way. And if they can talk about that and ask questions around that and have their thinking engaged in that, maybe we're getting closer to culturally relevant education as well. So just something to take away too, because we just hit the tip of the iceberg. So, but you guys, it is past the 2:30 mark. So thank you for engaging with me for 5 weeks. I appreciate your time and effort, especially your sub plans for all of my teachers in here, because 5 days of subs is crazy. So thank you for that. I certainly know how long that takes. And if you have questions, I think you have my email. And holler if you need anything. And you have some time to go back into the Google Docs if you need to. And if you have district time, you have that as well. Well, have a good one. That is it. Yeah.